Texhnolyze is the kind of darkness that does not warn you. It opens quietly, looks at you without blinking, and then refuses to let the world recover. Lux is the heart of it, an underground city held together by gang rule, prosthetic mining, and people who long stopped believing the surface still exists. Ichise barely speaks. He fights, loses, gets broken apart, and is rebuilt with prosthetic limbs that owe their existence to the dead. That choice alone tells you what kind of show this is. Raphia, the substance that fuels the prosthetics, is mined from corpses. Every advanced body in Lux carries a quiet debt to someone who is no longer there to argue about, and the first descent is not violence, it is silence. Long minutes pass with footsteps, machinery, distant fights, and faces that look like they have already accepted the worst. The factions are written without sentimentality. Organo wants order, the Union wants liberation, the Rakan want chaos, and none of them are presented as worth saving on their own terms. Movement here is deliberate. The series spends time on hallways, stairs, balconies, and waiting, because despair is paced like a slow leak, not a sudden flood. The stillest moments are the ones that stay. A character looking at a prosthetic hand, a child sitting alone, a city seen from above. In those frames, the show admits how tired everything has become. A wide shot of Lux should feel less like a setting and more like a sentence handed down. The walls are not just walls. They are the limit of what these people were ever allowed to imagine. The risk is plain. Texhnolyze is slow, hard, and unflinching. Viewers who need clean catharsis or fast pacing will not find them here. But that refusal is the point. The series treats hope as something that has to be earned, then quietly suggests there may not be enough left in the world to pay for it. The darkness works because it is structural. Every system in Lux is broken in a specific way, and the series respects those systems enough to follow them all the way to the end. What stays with me is the texture of late episodes. The lights dim, the soundtrack thins, the camera lingers, and Texhnolyze stops pretending the story was ever going to save anyone. It belongs here because it is one of the most honest portraits of decay anime has produced. Not stylish gloom, not pretty melancholy, just slow human exhaustion under concrete. Next, we leave Lux and step into a city above ground where the night has its own quiet predator, and an urban legend begins to walk between high school students. Boogiepop Phantom does not arrive as a horror story. It arrives as a rumor that keeps changing shape every time someone tries to repeat it. The city is unnamed, and that helps. It could be anywhere a pillar of light once appeared, anywhere a serial killer once walked, anywhere a teenager once disappeared without warning. The atmosphere is built on a reduced color palette and a soft vignette that closes around every two frame. The world feels narrowed down to one quiet street, one quiet hallway, one quiet thought. Boogiepop itself is barely seen. The figure is mostly remembered, suspected, or whispered about, which makes its presence stronger than any direct attack ever could. The first descent is structural. Episodes look at the same week from different perspectives, and slowly the viewer realizes that everyone has been carrying a private wound the others never noticed. MPLS, the ability that grows from trauma, gives the horror a quiet rule. Pain shapes what people can do, and that power frightens them more than it empowers them. Movement through the city is slow and overheard. Conversations bleed into other conversations, footsteps echo, and the sonar pulse in the soundtrack keeps telling you something is searching nearby. The stillness is where the show lives. A girl on a rooftop, a phone left ringing, a window watched from below. The camera is always interested in what is not happening. A wide city shot here should not feel grand. It should feel like a stage that has been emptied while no one was looking, with the audience left waiting for someone who may never return. The risk is the structure. The mosaic format takes time to cohere, and viewers who want a clean answer may close it before the pieces start to fit. But once the perspectives line up, the show becomes something rare. Not a monster story, but a citywide diagnosis of what late 90s teenagers were quietly carrying. The darkness works because it is environmental. Boogiepop Phantom is not about an evil thing. It is about a place where everyone has been hurt and almost nobody has been allowed to say it. What stays with me is the audio. The hush keeps stretching, and then a single line of dialogue lands like someone admitting they were never okay. It belongs here because it remembers how horror feels at 17. Not loud, not cinematic, just the slow understanding that the world has been bending around something nobody can name. Next, we step back centuries into a series of Edo and Meiji rooms, where a wandering medicine seller listens for the truth behind each haunting before he can draw his sword. Mononoke does not look like other anime, and it does not try to. The first frame already announces that this story belongs to ukiyo-e woodblock prints as much as to television. The medicine seller arrives at a haunted room, listens, watches, and decides whether the truth is even worth dragging into the open. He is not a hero, he is a witness with a sword. Each arc takes place inside a closed space. An inn, a ship, a mansion, a moving train. The rooms become emotional pressure cookers where everyone is held in place until something breaks. The Mononoke are not random monsters. They are pieces of regret, cruelty, abandonment, or grief that someone refused to face honestly while they had the chance. The first descent is the rule itself. Form, truth, and reason. He cannot strike until he understands what the spirit is, what really happened, and why anyone was hurt enough to leave it behind. That rule turns horror into investigation. The viewer is asked to listen to grown adults defend their lies, and to feel the moment when the story can no longer hold them. Movement through a Mononoke episode is theatrical. Sliding doors, brushstroke walls, lacquered hallways. The camera moves like a curtain being drawn back to expose what the room has been hiding. The stillness belongs to the medicine seller. He does not panic, raise his voice, or perform. He listens, and that calm makes the eventual exorcism feel like a verdict. A wide painted landscape in this show is never just background. It is a stylized commentary, a memory, or an accusation laid across the frame like fabric over a body. The risk is the surface. Some viewers see the colors, the patterns, the slow pace, and assume the show is style without substance. That impression collapses the moment one of the arcs lands. Because under the patterns, Mononoke is brutally clear about how regret poisons a place. The horror is never abstract. It has a name, a face, and someone who pretended not to remember. The darkness works because it sits beside compassion. The medicine seller does not enjoy any of this. He simply refuses to leave until the truth has been spoken out loud. What stays with me is the moment a spirit is finally seen, finally named, and finally given the dignity of being acknowledged before it is released. The exorcism is half mercy. Mononoke earns its place because it treats darkness as a moral form. Every haunting is a story someone tried to bury, and the show insists those stories deserve to be heard. Next, we leave Edo rooms and step into a far future where the world has already ended. Robots are rusting, and one wandering figure walks through a wasteland that refuses to die cleanly. Casshern Sins begins after the end. The world is already poisoned, the robots are already dying, and the central figure has already done the unforgivable. Casshern walks. He does not remember why he is hunted, why he is whole while everyone else corrodes, or what he once did to a girl named Luna. The series treats his amnesia as moral weight, not as a puzzle. The world around him is one of the most beautifully exhausted landscapes anime has produced. Petals, dust, rust, and broken machines drift through frames that look painted by grief. The body becomes the symbolic object. Rumors say eating his body grants immortality, so every encounter risks becoming an attack from someone who cannot stand the thought of rusting alone. The first descent is internal. Casshern is told that he is at fault, again and again, by characters who barely have the strength left to be angry, and he carries that accusation without arguing it away. The supporting cast is small but devastating. Each new robot or human comes pre-broken, and the show watches what happens when even that broken state begins to fail. Movement here is processional. Long walks across plains, slow approaches to ruined towns, quiet meetings at the edges of cliffs. The world is too tired to rush anyone toward an answer. The stillest scenes are the ones the show trusts most. A robot watching petals fall, a child laughing, a horizon turning gray. These images carry more of the theme than any speech does. A wide post-apocalyptic shot here should feel like a held breath. The earth is not exploding, it is simply finishing, and the camera waits with it. The risk is pacing. Casshern Sins is slow, repetitive in its rhythm, and unwilling to deliver fast catharsis. Viewers who need a strong external plot may not find it sufficient. But that slowness is the meditation. The show is asking what it means to be the last form left standing, and whether that survival is a privilege, a punishment, or a request for atonement. The darkness works because it is mourning, not nihilism. Casshern Sins is not telling us nothing matters. It is asking how to live, briefly, in a world that no longer pretends otherwise. What stays with me is the image of a small figure walking through a field of petals, knowing the field is dying and choosing not to look away. Casshern Sins earns its place because it turns post-apocalyptic dread into a quiet ritual of grief. The end of the world becomes a long, careful goodbye. Next, we leave the wasteland and step into the present, into rooms that look ordinary, where the threat is not extinction, but the slow erosion of memory under someone else's hand. Pet is one of the quietest dark anime around, and that quietness is exactly what makes it crawl. The horror is not blood, it is the slow editing of someone's interior life. The premise is simple and terrifying. A handful of psychics can enter another person's mind, walk through their inner landscape, and change what they remember. The show calls these inner worlds peaks and valleys. Peaks hold the memories someone has reached for. Valleys hold what they buried so they could keep functioning. The first descent is into another person's mind, and the camera never lets you forget that this is trespassing. Every step rearranges someone's identity without their permission. The bond between handler and pet is the central wound. They are tied together for control, for survival, and for an affection that looks more like emotional captivity than love. The company sits behind everything. It uses the gift as a weapon, treats its operatives as disposable, and turns their fragile inner lives into operational risk reports. Movement in Pet is mostly internal. A meeting in an apartment, a brief touch, a glance through a door, and then a long sequence inside a memory that should never have been visited. The stillness is brutal. A handler watching a pet sleep, a memory replaying with one detail subtly wrong, a face frozen mid-sentence. These images carry more dread than action ever could. A wide internal landscape shot should feel both gorgeous and wrong. Mountains, mist, soft light, and beneath them the awareness that none of it is supposed to be visited by outsiders. The risk is opacity. Pet introduces its rules through atmosphere rather than exposition, and viewers who need an early roadmap may find the early episodes disorienting. But once the logic settles, the show becomes one of the most precise psychological horrors anime has produced. Every operation is a quiet violation, and the series knows exactly how heavy that is. The darkness works because it is intimate. Pet is not about the world ending, it is about a small group of people losing the right to trust their own thoughts. What stays with me is the texture of damaged loyalty. The pets are not free, the handlers are not safe, and the bond between them is both their shelter and their slow undoing. Pet earns its place because it shows how dark a story can become when the violence happens entirely inside the skull. The wound is invisible, the cost is not. That closes Obsidian Loom, 5 works for viewers who want their darkness textured, philosophical, and patient, rather than loud, shocking, or cheap.